I'm always amazed by this. Twilight, in many ways, was supposed to be just another teen vampire, drama, and yet here's this movie that does eventually the box office 382 million.
Is that what they did? I'm asking for a raise.
There you go. And then on DVD, 156 million, plus. I don't know whether you, at some point, just realised this is not just another job. This is not just another movie.
Well, I knew that the books had a fan base because people were showing up to the set even when we were filming it, which I thought was bizarre because I'd never experienced that where people were actually showing up to sets before the movie even came out. So I knew that there was a powerful fan base, but none of us knew it was going to turn into this cultural phenomenon. Somewhere between the end of filming and the premiere, it just snowballed into this huge cultural phenomenon.
Well, I guess that I know the original film with Catherine Hardwicke was a $37 million budget. That on the very first day of release, it does $35.7 million. So it's going to be a very different story for the sequel when it comes to New Moon. I'm guessing when you all got back together to shoot New Moon, it must have just felt like a totally different world we're stepping into, because the first one you always had hope and all that it would connect, but now you're part of something that's just such expectation and such a built-in fan base. I don't know whether there was a pressure that came with that you felt.
It's just different levels of pressure. I mean, the first movie, there was a lot of pressure there because we knew there was a fan base. We wanted to make sure that the movie came out and those fans were appeased by what we were doing and that we told their story in a way that they were going to be happy. We were stepping into this unknown thing where, as an actor, you don't have that much control over the movie. You just have control over your character. And so, we weren't sure what the tone was going to be. And I remember having conversations with the actors while we were filming, saying, it's a very delicate balance, this movie, because it could get hokey really quick with vampire movies. And if the tone is wrong, then, this could be really bad, But thankfully, Catherine Hardwicke put together a pretty fantastic movie, and to her credit, it was very well shot, and the tone was just right. And then when we stepped into the second one, you have this successful movie, and now we have an even bigger fan base, so even more people are going to be looking to scrutinize and look at this movie under a microscope. So the level of pressure is it's just a little different.
I know that the incredibly lucky Summit Entertainment, who kind of backed this film, the studio behind it, I don't know if you they negotiated, I think, for the second film, the second book to be shot. I don't know whether you'd negotiated right up for the 4 books.
We did it. I think everyone had a 3-picture deal because there were 3 books done. So when we shot Twilight, there were 3 books out. The 4th one hadn't been written, hadn't been released yet.
So you must feel you've got good negotiating power for the 4th one. It's a very different world.
I don't know. I talk to my lawyers.
I don't know whether you feel there's been an impact on your career, because you've got Nurse Jackie with Edie Falco at the moment running in the States, and hopefully we'll get her over here. And then also the always unreliable IMDb. They have you down for 2 other movies, The Absent Drinker and Thicker. I don't know if the one is happening, but did you feel you moved up the food chain a little bit in Hollywood because of this movie, or were you kind of just keeping your head down and working?
I never really look at that stuff. I just continue moving from job to job and do my job as an actor and hope that I can continue doing my work and hopefully continue doing bigger and better things. But I definitely feel after doing this movie Twilight, it's reached a wider, base of a wider fan base. I mean, I've done a lot of work, and I've been working for 15 years, so I've always gotten, hey, you were really great in this, or you were really great in that, but to walk into a room and just have thousands of fans screaming, it's a completely different level.
Well, I was going to mention, like, for American audience especially, Fastlane was the first time they really kind of got to know. I think that was a breakthrough for you. And 6 Feet Under and Damage and stuff like that. But I don't know whether, given the fact that you're married to and she seems like a very beautiful, sweet woman, and you've got 3 daughters, I'm guessing there isn't that sort of needing you to really just think about career 24 hours a day.
Family's always been very important to me, and I'm fortunate that what I do provides me with enough money to take care of my family. But I always looked at my work. I never looked at my work like, hey, this is a stepping stone to becoming a celebrity. I've always looked at it as I'm an actor. I'm going to do work as an actor, and I'm an actor first, and celebrity second.
Of course, the currency of celebrity is so important in regard to just what's the box office and money and all the rest that's going to come in. I don't know whether, when you do go, say, in Chelsea lately, or just, you kind of have a little few people, I'm sure you appear on different shows, whether that side of it is enjoyable or whether it feels a little bit like work.
It's a little bit of both. I mean, you're a traveling salesman when you're an actor, and the product you're selling is yourself. So you have to go and you do these talk shows and stuff, but they're very enjoyable. I get to meet people like yourself and sit down and have these chats, and then you forget these cameras are rolling, and you have a genuine conversation, and it always feels good having a genuine conversation.
I know your eldest daughter, is it Luca or Luca?
Luca
Bella. She's 12, so she's the right age to sort of get a kind of some sort of grip on Twilight. Your level of cool must have gone up pretty high, because she wouldn't be watching Under or Damages, or she wouldn't be watching Fastlane, but suddenly to have her dad in this. Really
I think
cool
for the longest time, my daughter knew what my wife did, but she wasn't quite sure what I did, because I did all these movies that she couldn't see. So finally I did something that my daughter could see, and it was something that she actually got to read and was a fan of. So I think she was definitely happy about that.
Well, both you and your wife are actors, so obviously your children will sort of grow up having a fairly good knowledge of that world. And for you growing up though, with your own parents, like with your mom Bruna and with your father Pierino, they came to
Peter.
There you go. They came to Ozone Park in New York, and as immigrants. And I just wonder where the acting came in for you then, because I guess New York would always have a great sort of tradition of breeding actors just by the sheer amount of art that goes on in culture.
Right. Well, I grew up in Queens, New York, which, to me, saying I wanted to be an actor was like telling my parents I want to go to Mars. We knew no one in the business. There was, I never did theater when I was in high school. I was a kid with a dream, and so I went to college and I studied theater there. And then I started working, and so I'm pretty happy that I've been able to make a career out of it.
We mentioned the fact that you've just come from London, where you're at one of the Comic Con conventions, and you've done quite a few of them now around America. That's some raising money for charity and so forth. But I think Catherine was with you at a recent one. Catherine Hardwick, I think, turned up at one of the. I read that she was in one.
She's the last two events I've just missed her. I've been there on one day, and she's flown in the next.
Because I don't know if you spoke to her, just the idea that, as say Harry Potter's had different directors for a lot of different films, but I don't know whether that was a sort of surprise or a disappointment that you sort of made a film with somebody and expected to do the next one with her, and suddenly Chris Weitz is in. I don't know if you've spoken to her about that, or.
I called her after I found out Chris Weitz was going to be the new director, and I don't know if there was a level of disappointment there. I'm sure there was. But at the same time, I think Catherine's going to be just fine. She's a very talented director, and she has many stories to tell. So in some ways, it's she'll move on and do her thing. But there was a sadness there. You become like a family, and then one of the family members isn't coming back. But then there's an excitement of having a new director who brings a whole nother perspective to the film. So there was an excitement there, and I'm also excited to work with David Slade. On the next one. So I've also, as an actor, you become accustomed to working with different directors, and I've done a lot of television too, where in TV series, every episode's a different director. And it kind of brings a level of freshness to the show that you're shooting, so.
I got to wrap up, but very, very quickly.
Why? We're having such a good time.
You're a talented, happy man, you're a good-looking man, you've got a beautiful wife, you've got 3 lovely kids, you've got a successful career. Is there a tiny part of you thinks, that punk Robert Pattinson, why the hell is he getting all this attention? Because it is he is in the middle of a storm of passion from about 1 million.
I look at Rob and what's going on with him, and it's a curse and it's a blessing at the same time. I mean, I feel very fortunate that I get to do what I do, and I can still go down the street and grab a latte without people jumping out of the bushes and trying to take a picture of it and then creating stories about it. So, as much as everyone thinks that, hey, that must be so fantastic, it's got to be very scary for him, and it's got to be very difficult for him too. I mean, I know I went to see him in New York, and it's hard for him he kind of, a lot of times, if he wants to go out, he chooses not to, because it creates a frenzy. So then you get trapped in your room a lot, which has got to be pretty lonely. Robert Pattinson's lonely. See? That's what he needs, more people to love him.
Yeah. Let me talk to you. Yeah.
It's meeting you.
Cheers, man.